In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Conifer Pieces of Life notebook. I'll go over the specs, I'll do a paper test, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this notebook coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. So this is the Conifer Pieces of Life notebook. Now this notebook is very similar in design to the Yoseka stationery notebook. You'll see it has this sort of naked binding and the same kind of board covers, and that's because Conifer made the one that Yoseka stationery had. I'll put a link to the review of that notebook up in the corner. So I was curious to see if I could get another notebook with that same paper, and unfortunately the answer was no. So that paper had KBU 2. This is KBU 3, which is a heavier paper than the KBU 2, but it's not exactly the same. It does have some similarities, which we'll get into. But anyway, this has 192 pages. It's an 8mm rule. It's kind of a light gray rule. And again, it's a KBU 3 paper, which is 100 GSM, and it's acid-free. A5 size and naked binding, just like the Yoseka. Now, looking at the back of this, you can see some images here and some Chinese, which I cannot read. It does show the price here of $225. That's the new Taiwanese dollar, which comes out to roughly something like $8 or $9. Now, to get this in the United States, shipping costs more than that, so you're not going to be able to get one of these if you're in the US for $8 or $9. I bought this with a series of other notebooks from Conifer, so I don't have the exact cost on the shipping, but it's not the easiest notebook to buy. You can buy it on their website, but I don't know of another place where you can buy this notebook. So anyway, we have Pieces of Life here, kind of in this debossed gold foil, and on the back we have the Conifer logo. But other than that, there's nothing there, just the naked sewn binding. We have 12 signatures, which is very good for 192 pages. So opening it up, we have a smooth, over here, a thicker paper, and then we go right into the KBU 3 ruled paper. This is an 8mm rule. The top margin is pretty high, looking at 22 millimeters, and the bottom is about 13. So pretty big margins up on top, and we have 8mm rule here. It has a very similar feel to the KBU 2 paper. It lays very flat, of course, because that naked binding, there's nothing getting in the way there, so it's really quite nice. Now, going to the paper performance, you can already see a little bit of a preview there. So looking at the Pilot 6mm, looks pretty good. You can see there's some feathering going on here. Not necessarily the best. Same on the Mont Blanc here. We see quite a bit more feathering, more sort of hairiness or featheriness to it. The Schaefer looks pretty good. This G here is showing a little bit. The Lamy Safari, a little bit of feathering even on the extra fine there. Sharpie looks good. The Copic sketch looks pretty good. I think everything else looks quite nice. So going to the back, now even though this is a thicker paper, the performance, unfortunately, was not quite as good. We're seeing more spotting here on the Pilot, on the Mont Blanc, and on the Schaefer. None on the Lamy Safari, the extra fine. But notice how well this paper does with every other pen, including the Sharpie, the Copic sketch, the Pilot oil drawing pen, and the other Staedtler permanent marker. This is, despite the fountain pen performance, this paper is really nice. You know, it's like this is suitable for Copic sketch markers, which is really, really good. These are really difficult alcohol markers, and it actually works with the Sharpie. So while the fountain pen performance is disappointing, everything else is really nice. So if you Now, you wouldn't want this in ruled if you're going to use a Copic sketch marker for drawing, but this paper is actually quite nice. One other thing I forgot to point out is that it has Conifer down here in the bottom. Let me go get the Yoseika notebook and we can just do a quick comparison. So here's the Yoseika. Now, looking at the paper performance, we can see that the KBU2 is quite a bit better. We do get a little bit of spotting with the Pilot and the Mont Blanc here. Everything else looks pretty good. We're getting a little bit more penetration with the Copic than here, but nothing on the Sharpie there. And we don't get feathering on the face, which we do get with the KBU3, unfortunately. So what do we think? You know, I've talked to Conifer. They plan to begin producing the KBU2 paper again. It's been out of production or not available, but they plan to do that in the next year or two, is my understanding. So, you know, it's possible that Yoseika will be bringing this notebook back, or that we'll be able to buy other notebooks from Conifer with the KBU2 paper. My recommendation, you know, this isn't horrible with fountain pens, but it's not the best. The KBU2 is definitely superior. So what are my pros and cons for the Conifer Pieces of Life notebook? The biggest pro for me is definitely this sort of naked exposed binding. It allows the notebook to lie very, very flat. I like the minimalistic design. It looks very nice. I like that the paper works really, really well with Copic markers. I basically get no bleed unless I'm really laying on the marker, but this is a paper that's suitable for alcohol markers, which is pretty cool. Now, in terms of cons, fountain pen performance was unfortunately not as good as the KBU2 paper. I get feathering a bit, and I get some bleeding. Now, if you use thinner pens, this works nice, and it's actually a very nice paper to write on, similar feeling to the KBU2 paper that we had in that Yoseika stationery notebook, but unfortunately fountain pen performance was not as good. The other con is that, you know, even though this notebook cost something like $8, I had to buy this from Conifer's Taiwanese website, and with that shipping it just becomes expensive. Now, that's pretty much it. This is a nicely made notebook. I do like the paper. Unfortunately, it's just not the best for fountain pens. I'm hoping that they are going to start producing the KBU2 paper again. I was told it's going to be maybe a year or more before that goes back into production. But if you really, really like the feel of that KBU2 paper, you will probably like this, assuming, again, you don't go too wide with your fountain pens. Okay, so that is it. Do you guys have this notebook? Do you like this notebook? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much, and until next time.